Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So the video I'm going to discuss today definitely falls into the category of discussing Brazil from the perspective of race. It's a video that I became aware of a few days ago, and I says I definitely wanted to talk about this. It's a topic that I haven't covered a lot, but I haven't left it out either. It's something that I haven't focused on a lot, but it's something that it'll pop up as a topic from time to time on the channel. So as well as on the blog. So today, I'm not getting a nose job. I was born with it. I was born with it, and it doesn't bother me. Social influencer Raquel Brito responds to suggestions that she have rhinoplasty. A lot of stuff going on there. I think that the title of the video basically says it all, but I want to get into the details, explore some of the context to understand why this was an important statement that this young woman made. So before I get into the video, definitely like the video, share the video, consider subscribing to the channel, click on the notification bell so that you know when I put up the next video. So let's get directly into this video for today. So this is Raquel Brito. Okay, Raquel Brito. She's known for being the sister of David Brito. David Brito won the 24th edition of the ever popular reality show in Brazil called Big Brother Brazil. He won the last season. I think it was one of the biggest cash prizes ever. I think it was somewhere between 2 and 3 million reais, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Some people, it had been years, but some people defined him as the first Black male winner on the reality show, while others says no. This was a video I did a couple months back because there was another guy that won the competition, but a lot of people don't consider him Black. So after this went back and forth, they just decided to say, okay, David was the first dark-skinned, clearly Black man to win on Big Brother Brazil. Okay, so she got famous really because of her brother, and due to her connection with her brother, she's been able to build up her own social network platform. So she's got a lot of followers on Instagram and other platforms. I also want to talk about what's going to come out in this video is just the anti-Black sentiments that you find in Brazil, in a country that for so long claimed that nós somos todos iguais, we're all equal. But how can you say that we're all equal when it's clear that in Brazil, the closer to the physical, closer to the European physical aesthetic, the better off people are, more doors open, more people are going to accept you because you're being classified as being close to the European standard. Let's understand, Brazil, for the last, we could say, century and a half, has said that they want to whiten the population through mixture. Okay. But what that has led to is a large mixed race population. And I've seen books. I remember there was a particular book that was talking about, beauty in Rio de Janeiro, people hanging out on the beach. Everybody wants to be beautiful. So people are willing to do whatever to make themselves beautiful. That means, straightening out their hair. A lot of people undergo plastic surgery. People spend a lot of time in the gym. They want to be aesthetically like pleasing to the eye, you could say. But that aesthetic always seems to get closer to the European aesthetic. Now, in the case of sun tanning, people will go dark enough to be considered having a good tan, but nobody wants to get to the point where they're being confused with being Black. Okay. Let's just make that clear. Brazil has a very Eurocentric standard when it comes to physical appearance. There's no way around that. One of the proofs of that is that Brazil is consistently like in the top 3 to 5 countries in the world that have the most plastic surgeries, most cosmetic surgeries. So people in Brazil, according to this study, they're very much aware of physical features, facial features. People will want to go under the knife to change their nose because, well, this is the African ancestry in my family. My eyes look like this because of the Indian and indigenous influence. I want to take away my slanted eyes or whatever. People talk about, we've said this before, the idea of cabelo bom, cabelo ruim, meaning good hair, bad hair. People want to straighten out their hair. It seems like everything people can do to get further away from looking too African, that's what people are going to do. So in Brazil, one of one of the popular plastic surgeries, as in many other countries, is going to be the correction of what they call the negroid nose. There's plenty of websites and plastic surgeons in Brazil who actually have this on their website. It's called correção de nariz negroide, the correction of the negroid nose. Notice when people have plastic surgery on their nose, there's never anybody to make their nose bigger. I've never heard of that. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen it. Then the idea that it seemed to me, as many years as I followed Brazil, when women, I'm not speaking specifically of Black Brazilian women, but Brazilian women in general, when they get on, when they get famous, when they get a following, when they get money, it's almost automatic that they're going to have some type of procedure. They might have breast augmentation. They might change something on their face. It's almost automatic. She's famous now. She's got money now. She has to change her appearance. It's too many. I won't even go into all of the examples because I could do a whole story on that. I also want to talk about, just as an example, I used to work in Sao Paulo, and I remember when I worked on Avenida Paulista, there was this white American guy that I would sit next to at work, and we would always talk about all different types of stuff. He was married to a Black Brazilian woman, coincidentally, or maybe not, but I can't remember it might have been 2017, maybe. I'm not sure what year that was, but the popular funk singer known as Ludmilla, she had surgery on her nose. And, we were just talking about it, and I showed him before and after pictures of Ludmilla, and he was like, yeah, I would have changed my nose too. This is what her nose looks like. And he put his fist over his face to say that that's how big her nose was. It was disgusting for him to say something like that. He didn't see nothing wrong with it because he's just speaking his opinion. But I'm saying, as we know, the wider nose is really associated with persons of African descent. So it was really, to me, it was kind of a racist comment. I wasn't about to start scuffling and arguing with this guy at work, but I'm just saying he felt very comfortable in saying that. This was a white American, but I'm saying I was working in Sao Paulo. In Sao Paulo, Brazil in general is very much, what country is not attached to physical appearance? But once there's a certain aesthetic in line, people do whatever they can to try to reach that aesthetic, which sometimes can be a problem. So anyway, with that background, I'm going to show some other articles that, put further context into what I'm talking about, so like, somebody just look and say, oh, this is just my opinion. Like, no, this is something that I've seen for a number of years in Brazil. So anyway, I'm going to overdub an excerpt from the Raquel Brito video in which she's talking about her decision not to have plastic surgery on her nose, but it's also intriguing what else she had to say in this video. So right now I'm just going to overdub what she had to say. So check this out. Let me respond to this one, guys. Let me say something very clear here for you. People today, if I'm going to do any kind of procedure, I'm going to do it here in the chest area, because it's a dream of mine, because I want to, because I want to, right? And the other place I'm thinking about having something done, because I also want to, the area around my nose, where people ask me to have rhinoplasty. That's what you understand. I'm not going to have it done because it's something I was born with. I grew up with it, and it doesn't bother me. And people want a perfect face, which is normal for me,
Que isso aqui pra mim é normal, entendeu?
And we have to understand that we have to love ourselves the way we are. There's no such thing as fitting into a parallel world to please people, or being beautiful as people think you have to be. Perfect little body, perfect little face, people. Nothing against those who do it, because I also did Botox on my face. But there are people who have surgery. So anyway, I could go further on in what she was saying, the people wanting to be closer to the Barbie appearance, again, setting these aesthetic standards, right? So what I noticed in what she was saying, I'm like, it's admirable that she says, I'm not going to change my nose. I don't see nothing wrong with my nose. She says, on the one hand, people have to accept themselves the way that they are. But then she goes on to say that she wants to have, apparently, breast augmentation. And she says she's also done some Botox. So I don't know. To me, it sounds like a bit of a contradiction, like she's a little bit confused on this topic, Because on the one hand, I'm not going to change my nose, but I'm not above changing other stuff that I don't particularly like on my body. So yeah, it's admirable that she doesn't want to change her nose, but she still hasn't, even though she said we have to accept ourselves as we are, it doesn't seem like she's actually taking her own advice because she still thinks about doing some stuff to change her appearance. Okay. So this was an article by Hernani Freitas, and she's just talking about some of the same stuff that I talked about. Raquel has made appearances wearing lingerie. It's almost like, you get online and people have to like become sensual or sexual in their appearance. I don't know, to get more, I don't know, followers, subscribers on their platforms or whatever. And this is, people have followed her. Looks good, girl, do your thing. And so this is what I got here. When she was having a question and answer with her followers, this topic of rhinoplasty, reducing the size of the nose comes up, and they says, do you accept having wider nostrils? And then check it. It says, however, this wasn't her first comment on the subject, since such requests are constant on her social networks. People are constantly asking her, like, when are you going to have rhinoplasty? Now, intriguing, there were jokes about her brother's nose while he was on the 24th season of Big Brother Brazil. There were memes going around that made his nose even bigger, even wider than what it is. And so her brother had to deal with that as well. There was a part in this article where they said, the nose is kind of like, it's like a characteristic of the family. So she already discussed this. Let me see. Respond. Okay, the mother commented that the nose is the family's trademark. Let me see. Many people reacted with surprise to Raquel's statement, praising her for her stance against cosmetic interventions that remove her striking features. And I said, to a degree, that's true. But even though she's not wanting to change her nose, she pretty much made it clear to me that she's willing to change other things. So anyway, what does this mean? Why is what she's saying about her nose and her refusal to change the appearance of her nose, why is this a big deal? Because this is Brazil. This isn't just an isolated incident. When you look at other people, I just mentioned the singer Ludmilla. The Black celebrity in plastic surgery, is it necessary to achieve mega success? Singer Ludmilla, the latest to apparently agree, provokes controversy with her new nose. This article is from 2016. Ludmilla, when she first came out, I think this article is from 2016. Other pictures of what she looked like before and after, with her new nose, she looked like just, I mean, she's going to be black regardless. She hasn't gone really drastic with it, but at this point, I don't know how many surgeries Ludmilla has had. This is at the beginning of her career when she was called MC Beyonce. Of course, she had to change her name for obvious reasons. Okay, but Ludmilla is nothing different. She's standing here next to Anita, who she's long had a feud with. Popular singer, funk singer, probably the biggest, most popular Brazilian singer outside of Brazil, as well as in Brazil. And Anita's had a number of procedures herself. And this is not just to speak on just Brazilian women, because we could talk about Beyonce before and after nose, Tyra Banks before and after nose, Toni Braxton before and after nose. There's numerous, African Americans that we could talk about in this case. So it's not like I'm just picking on Brazilians. I'm saying, seems like at some point in somebody's career, if they're a black woman, they're going to have some type of cosmetic procedures. If you go and punch up Antes depois cirurgia with Anita, which means before and after, you're going to see a bunch of pictures of Anita, what she looked like when she first came out. I mean, she hasn't hidden the fact that she's had a number of cosmetic procedures over the years, at the left here, and then her more, I don't know, refined look, if you will. So Anita's had a number of cosmetic surgeries, just as, like I said, many Brazilian women who become entertainers and come in the spotlight are going to go through these procedures. Here's an article in Portuguese, but when you translate it in English, it says only plastic surgery can fix your nose. Racism and eugenics in the column Elegância e Beleza of O Cruzeiro in the 1940s. So it's saying there's a column in either a newspaper or a magazine called O Cruzeiro, and the column was called Elegance and Beauty. And what they're talking about here is, in the 1940s, we see in the periodical, we identify the existence of the discourse of racial improvement advocated by the Brazilian eugenics movement. So yeah, that's a whole nother story, talking about the eugenics movement in Brazil, because it did exist, as I've said. Brazilian elites came up with the idea of mixing the population until it became white, or at least whiter than it was. So let me see, highlighting the subtle character of the proposal to conceal Black and indigenous physiognomies, right, in the early 20th century. So this is what I'm saying, correcting the Black and indigenous influence on the Brazilian population through plastic and cosmetic surgery. Okay. Now, on the world stage in 1920 or 2022, Brazil performed more cosmetic surgeries than the United States. What? Brazil performed more cosmetic surgeries than the United States in 2022, with Brazil performing 8.9 of the world's procedures and the US performing 22%. I don't know how that makes out because there are more Americans and the Americans did 22 versus Brazil doing about 9. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how that worked. But in 2023, they says it was actually from 3 million cosmetic surgeries in Brazil, I think to was like 3.3 million. So Brazil is consistently in the top 3 to 5 countries in terms of how many plastic surgeries their citizens undergo. So we see a standard here. This headline, my hair and my color, my skin color, it bothers you. Why? It's always been a thing of the African feature. People want to get away from the African features. The embranquecimento or whitening theory says you should want to whiten and make your offspring look as more European as possible. Okay. So all of the Black aesthetics that make someone Black, the skin color, the size of the nose, size of the lips, the hair texture, and obviously the skin color. These are all things that a lot of Brazilians of African descent have been trying to escape from. The nose and the clothespin, the pregador. Who taught you to hate yourself? I'm quite sure many of you are familiar with who asked that question. Let me see. I want to get down to the origins of this point, the origins of this article. Let me see. So this advertiser was telling a story that her mother had told about the stories in the family about the use of clothing pins and like clothing pins to try to thin out the nose when people were children, something that she sought not to reproduce in the raising of her 4 children. However, even without passing on this practice in the family environment, in contact with other persons and influences that discriminate the beauty or the Black presence and Black beauty, direct or indirectly, there is a feeling of being inadequate. So this woman remembers this being in her family, saying, put a clothespin, maybe that'll thin out your nose. And as I said, Malcolm X is huge in Brazil as well. Those who come to Black consciousness, if you go to Google, if you know how to write Portuguese or read Portuguese, you'll see a lot of Malcolm X's, Martin Luther King's, a lot of speeches from prominent African-American leaders have been translated into Portuguese. So what it says here, quem te ensinou a odiar a si mesmo? Who taught you to hate yourself? All of this right here. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? All of this is, they translated Malcolm X's speech. So this has been a huge, we'll say, discourse from Malcolm X that has taught people to question where they get the ideas of rejecting African influence features. This is a popular journalist, Clegiana Ramos, a popular journalist. The day that my nose defined me as Black, notes about racism, Brazilian style racism. Okay, she has pictures here with her and her father. And, there was a part in this story where she talked about how people would say, you don't have very dark skin, but her African features were very clear, such as her nose. You see the pictures of her nose that she shared in this archive. So just think about that. She may not have identified as being Black when she was a child. She might have. I might have to go back and look at her history. But she's saying it was that nose. And obviously people made comments about her nose that made her understand like, oh, this is a Black characteristic. So if she didn't know it, and I've known a lot of people over the years who have said these things. I have a friend that lives in Georgia and she's very fair skinned, has light green eyes. But she said people in her family would tell her, you lucky you got light skin and green eyes because that hair ain't gonna cut it. Right. So people hear these types of things all the time. The difficult art of being Black and having self-esteem. There's something in here. Let me see if I can find because in this popular book called Tornar-se Negro, it's a book that talks about the process that Black Brazilians go through to become Black. Because when you're born in Brazil, you don't necessarily learn that you're Black right away because people are so busy trying to avoid being Black. But all of the characteristics of Black people, these are things that people want to distance themselves from. Beiço grosso are the thick lips, the thick and flat nose, the nariz chato y grosso, cabelo ruim, bad hair, all of these do negro of the black people, the boom down. Or we could just say the big ass, right? So these are all things that are associated with, the black population, and people have been taught to try to avoid that. If you can't change your appearance, at least get with somebody white to minimize that appearance on your offspring. Here is Dr. Érico Brazil, that's his name. He's a plastic surgeon in the city of Fortaleza in Ceará in the northeast of Brazil. And in this video, he's talking about the nariz negroide, plastic surgery for the little potato nose. What I need to say about that, this is a plastic surgeon talking about how he's going to minimize the negroid nose, right? If you use these keywords, correção de nariz negroide, the correction of the negroid nose, you're going to find just several articles where they talk about rhinoplasty. What is rhinoplasty on the negroid nose? Rhinoplasty on the negroid nose. I don't know what this. Let me see what this article, if I can get it. I don't see the whole, but it says appreciating the probably the black beauty, because I've seen stories of people who, even though they want to have plastic surgery, they don't want to mutilate their nose to it doesn't look like an African origin nose. This is the same doctor, Dr. Érico Brazil, rhinoplasty for the nariz negroide. There was a video that I saw on Facebook where it flat out said, the correction of the negroid nose. So it's no secret. So the question that Raquel Brito asked, this is not something that's a small thing, because it's a conversation that goes on. A lot of Brazilians discuss this. What you're going to do about that nose? Tatiana Novaes was the first, unbelievable. This is from September 2021. She's the first Black woman plastic surgeon in Brazil, right? And this headline from the Correio website newspaper says, there's patients she has that want to kill themselves because of their nose. This is what she said. This is the first Black female plastic surgeon of Brazil, Tatiana Novaes. People want to kill themselves because of what their noses look like. That's pretty drastic, but this is the reason why I felt like this article was something I wanted to share, this video. Sign of the times, it takes 3 months for a samba school to find women without silicone breasts. This is an article from 2014, and women compete to have the spotlight on them during Carnival. They come out of what they call the Escolas de Samba. All of these samba schools in Rio that compete against each other, in the national spotlight. They have competitions. It's just kind of like, it's like a football or basketball league or something. These samba schools go against each other to come out on top, for the best samba school presentation during Carnival. So you can see a lot of women that look like this. And for these women to compete, they feel like they have to go under the knife because they're competing with other beautiful women. So think about that headline says, it took 3 months for a samba school to find a woman without silicone. Very revealing. Again, Brazil, a country that practices a lot of plastic surgery. I'll never forget this. This was a few years after I had created the blog. The popular singer, very provocative Rio-based funk singer Tati Quebra Barraco. She was recuperating from her, get this, 26th plastic surgery. That girl spent a lot of time under the knife. I'm quite sure she's probably past 30 by now. But at the time of this article back in 2013, she had already undergone 26 cosmetic procedures. People would say some pretty horrible thing about that girl, which probably would lead her to have so many surgeries. And ultimately, the question is this: are white women aesthetically superior to other women? How do standards of femininity affect Black women? You go to Brazil and you see all of the beer ads, they're usually going to be blondes and brunettes, clearly European women, focusing on the beautiful branquinha, the little white woman with the flat stomach and toned thighs. You punch in Brazilian television talk show host or whatever, they're mostly going to be white women. So this is what I say: Brazil is under a standard of beauty that approximate the European standard. You punch in Brazilian actresses, this is what you're going to see. Even though that's changed over the years, more Black women and Black men are starting to get their spotlight, in the entertainment business. But generally, this is what you're going to see. Google image for Brazilian models. This is what you're going to see. I think I use the Portuguese terms to search, like modelos brasileiras, right? These are some of the propaganda ads, the advertising ads for beer ads. They're usually white women. So we can understand what drives the cosmetic surgery industry in Brazil, because it is a standard that is imposed on the population. Reality show participant Adelia is a lawyer, but is it necessary for Black women to go blonde, have cosmetic procedures, and present present sensuous images to find success. This woman's already a lawyer. She participated in, let's see, I think it was Big Brother Brazil number 16, if I'm not mistaken. She's a lawyer from the city of Suzano in Sao Paulo. Now, what I found intriguing about this is her son. And it said here, according to Vinicius, her son, this guy here, the only thing her mother does and that really bothers him are the plastic surgeries. He says, I think there is no need and it's dangerous. Her recovery period after the butt surgery, for example, it was horrible. I'm afraid she'll do it again and go through the same problems that she had. Now that she's done, now it's like this. I prefer that she doesn't mess with it anymore. I think it's risky and I don't want to lose her in any way. Obviously, he's referring to when you have certain types of cosmetic surgeries, it is possible that you come out with you don't have your life. Your life ends. It can be dangerous to go and have these type of surgeries. We've heard about all of the BBL, the BBL cosmetic surgeries and the dangers associated with them, but people continue to do this. So this is why I say this video is not necessarily just talking about just the aesthetic of Raquel Brito and the affirmation that she says she's happy to have her nose, but even being happy to have her nose, I think she's not completely happy with herself, which is why she would consider doing other procedures, not necessarily her nose. But anyway, that's why I wanted to bring the story here today, because I think this speaks a lot to, again, the race issue and characteristics and features of people's, appearance that are associated with Africanness, indigenous, and European appearances. So anyway, what did you think about today's video? Drop a comment in the comment section, like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel, and click on the notification bell so you know when I put up another video. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post.